Well, why don't we start with the rack first? You've got the rack. Hopefully you're using a back rack system. This machine has part of it here, but it's missing most of it. There is a system, I'm not sure if it's on the machine you have, but there will be another rack that sets up in here. You have a pickup assembly down here on the same shaft that operates this rack. The rack itself will be cut the same distance or the same spacing, only it will be in the reverse direction, so that you've actually got two indicators that pick up opposite each other, move ahead, and when the cam stops, it will lock. So your headstock locks and will not slip ahead, so you'll get an exact measurement every time. This is important when you're trying to make the wooden nickels, just because you've got to stop it so that you don't overfeed and it doesn't creep ahead. The other problem that you might be having is if your feed cam on this particular machine, it's roughly 7/8 of an inch. Okay, if you're looking to do wooden nickels, you don't want any more than 1/4 of an inch feed cam. We have another machine right here that you can see the difference in the feed cams. This one, they're using the thickness of the piece plus your thickness of your saw plus what they call a finish feed, generally a 32nd to a 1/16 of an inch wider than the piece. So this, if you're running say 1/8 inch, you're probably running, this cam should be at least 3/16 to maybe 1/4 of an inch thick. It also drops right onto the main plate so that there's not a lot of travel. That could be part of your speed issue if you're running too thick of a cam. You've got too much distance for the rack to fall back. That would help you eliminate the distance, which distance is time, so that's production. The next thing that you need to look at is you have a form cam, which is right down in here. This is what operates your knife. That cam has to be ground so that it comes in quick till it gets to just about where it's going to start, and then it's got to turn into the piece on a relatively slow basis, then snap back quick. And by doing that, that will give you more production. It will make the piece, you can make the piece much faster. But you have to have that a slow, smooth action as it's knifing into the piece. Same way with your saw cutoff. The saw cutoff has to come in quick to the piece. You don't want this dropping back way too far. It has to be fairly close, wants to come in quick, and then slow down and saw the piece off and then drop back really quick out of the way. These two cams are very important for your speed. If they're not ground properly, and most cams that we make or used to make, when we bored the hole, the initial hole, we did a series of lines with a tool bit on the face of the cam so that you could look at the cam when you get ready to grind it, and you could bring it from one line to another line in a smooth radius. And by doing that, that will increase or slow down the speed on this knife as it feeds in and backs out. So you can drop it off really fast on the way back out. You can bring it in really fast and then slow it down, or you can bring it in slow all the way. Bringing it in slow all the way and dropping back is okay, as long as you don't let the knife get too far away from the rougher ring. Those are the basic ingredients as far as making this machine produce.
And it should produce at up to 75 pieces per minute.
Yeah, you should be able to, doing a wooden nickel, you should be running a minimum of 70-75 pieces a minute. You know, and that, a lot of that too depends upon how the wood is dried. If you've got just a little bit of moisture in it, it works a little better sometimes. It won't hair as quick and it won't break out. Also, you've got to run a lot of shear in this knife to help roll that shaving off and get it away from the nickel itself. You don't want it dragging on it. You want it to shear into it and then right back out. So there's got to be a good amount of shear on the knife itself. And like I said, probably one of the best things to help you out would be the back rack, which would be located down in here. This machine doesn't have it. But you can see the thickness of the rack, how they've cut the spacing for the rack. And like I said, your back rack would be another one of these racks, only in reverse, set right out parallel. And the system underneath, the catch system, that just would be 2 bars instead of 1, which you have 1 under there now that drops down. You would have a second one on the very same cross linkage that would drop down in the other direction. So as you advanced, it would drop down in and then it would catch. And that's pretty much the basic of the novelty lathe.